We'd love to tell you what this podcast is about, but the truth is, we don't know. The CW Pod, at home on Iowa Everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed, seedsmanship at work.
Mike Palm is going to be stopping by here at Circa. And basically what I'm going to be doing is giving you guys like my general college football preview for the upcoming season. Obviously, we're going to come at this from a sports betting perspective as we are here at the sports betting capital of the world in Vegas. I'm going to give you my buys. I'm going to give you my sells, my win totals, what I'm liking as we head into the 2023 season. We will also do some NFL as well as we are here. This is awesome. They're calling it the contest weekend here at Circa for the biggest contest in all of Vegas, $14 million in guaranteed prizes. So Hassel and I are going to have entries into Circa Million and Circa Survivor that you guys will going to be able to follow along with all year long on two guys named Chris. Million. So Survivor is it's pretty basic. You pick a team and you see how long you can go. I'm just so pissed at myself. I was in a one with buddies last year and I went 19-0, which you're like, why are you mad at that? That's a great thing. Yeah. 'Cause I can't do it again. Now that I'm in the big dogs, I'm going to be out in week 3. I can just feel it. Nonetheless, fired up for that. And then Millions is the cool one where you go and you pick 5 games against the spread every single week. And there's quarterly prizes and there's annual prizes, and it's pretty sweet. So we're going to see where Hassel and I rank as we're doing this together with some of the best sports bettors in the entire world. You can follow along all season long on two guys named Chris. We are in the Channel Seed Studios out here in beautiful Las Vegas. And what's funny is I brought intern Aiden with me, and he had never really been to Vegas before. So I took intern Aiden. He wanted to go and see the Strip, and I convinced him that the Strip sucks within about 15 minutes. Aiden will never want to go to the Strip again.
Circa till I die.
Thank you very much, Aiden. It's a pain in the ass. It was the craziest deal ever. So we're here in the desert, and there was a monsoon last night.
It was ridiculous.
I never seen anything like it. There people died last night down on the Strip. They got washed away in the flood. Did you hear about that?
I did, yeah.
We were in the middle of it.
We survived.
We got the hell out of there when that started.
Just missed the hard stuff, though.
Yeah, people died last night. I'm not leaving Fremont Street the rest of the time. So this is how today is going to go. I've got my buys, I've got my sells, and I've got 4 teams that I'm stumped by. Now, I wanted to bring in my main man, Chad Leistikow, to help me with some of these Big Ten teams. You can hear him on the Legends and Listeners podcast each and every week with Scott Docterman from The Athletic. I've got a lot of Big 12 plays here and then just some general stuff that I'll probably try and pick Mike Palm. Mike Palm's a world-class handicapper, and we get complete access to him whenever we want here on Iowa Everywhere, which is pretty sweet. Chad Leistikow, what's up, brother? How are you, my friend?
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Am I sounding okay?
Yeah. You're okay. You're a little we got to figure out my audio here, but can you hear me okay? You good?
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome, man. Listen, so I've got 3 Big Ten teams that I need to run through with you. And it is, first of all, There's one at the end that I heard you and Doctorman have a phenomenal conversation about, which is Wisconsin. We're going to get to them last because I think that they're really fascinating. But let's start with Michigan. 15 starters back, playoff team. Their number here at Circa is at 11. Now, I've also seen it at 10.5. But I was doing some power rating work with Michigan on my flight yesterday. They're a 2-touchdown favorite in all but 2 games this year. They'll be favored in the other 2 as well, Penn State and Ohio State. I mean, the way I see Michigan, isn't the worst-case scenario at 11 a push? Like, they're not going to go 10-2, are they?
I like the under, Chris.
Whoa!
I'm pretty strong on the under this year, actually. I think that people's perception of Michigan is it's rightfully high. And I voted them number 3 in the AP top 25 poll, so I'm not down on them. But they've had 2 great games, basically 2 great games the last 2 years. Obviously, when it counted against Ohio State. But can they do it a third time? I don't know. They're at Penn State this year.
You love Penn State.
I kind of like Penn State, yeah. I think they got a great defense, and I think their quarterback's going to be better than Sean Clifford. This Drew Aller, I think he's going to be better. Supposedly, it's the best offensive line James Franklin's had. So I lean over on Penn State and under on Michigan, which obviously comes down to that Michigan-Penn State game, which I think is like a 2.5-point line right now. Michigan's favored, something like that.
I had it like 1 to 3. It depends on the power ratings you use. Yeah.
Okay. And not to filibuster on Michigan, but they have an easy home schedule. So I can see how you can get to 11 in a heartbeat. So let's give them 7-0, okay, at home.
Okay.
I'm 6-0 at home. I'm sorry, before Ohio State. Let's not count Ohio State. Here are their 5 road games, and then they host Ohio State. So these are 6 games. I feel like these are tricky. At Nebraska, that's their first road game of the year. Harbaugh's first road game. Yeah, I know. At Minnesota, that's the next week.
Yeah.
Flex tough, man. A couple weeks later, at Michigan State.
They suck.
I know they suck, but that rivalry, man, crazy stuff happens in that game. You saw it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then their last 2 road games are at Penn State, at Maryland. Maryland's supposed to be decent this year, and then they host Ohio State. So I'm just saying, I like the odds of them losing 2 of those games, so I go under.
Interesting. I kind of feel like part of me, Chad, is like this is Harbaugh's last stand. He's got the NCAA breathing down his neck. He's been trying to get all these NFL jobs. Yeah. It just like it's like feels like this guy's going to just push everything into the middle of the table this year. I'm a Harbaugh honk. I love Harbaugh. So
I know.
I just think he's so great. Like the guy just wins everywhere. He's at San Diego. He's at the 40. Wherever he goes, he freaking won at Stanford for God's sake. Like the guy's phenomenal.
I know. I could be, They eked by Illinois last year. They eked by Maryland last year. Everyone just remembers Ohio State. They've gotten slaughtered in the playoff. Well, not slaughtered by TCU, but they were outplayed in the playoff, right? And they got slaughtered by Georgia the year before. I don't know.
All right. So we disagree on Michigan. There's some books that have a 10.5 there. I love it there.
I go under on 10.5 too, but
wow. Okay. All right. There you go. Well, so this is why I wanted to bring a guy like Chad on, because don't just go with my opinions here, folks. Like that's not a. So what about Illinois? Because Circa has this number at 6.5. Let me tell you what I like about Illinois. Is they know exactly what they are. They remind me of a young Kirk Ferentz, Iowa, and there's clearly. Brett Bielema has a literal tiger hawk on his leg. Because you could look at Illinois and you could say you got to replace good quarterback, elite running back. You got all this stuff, but I just don't feel like that's what the team is built off of in skill players. They're all about the trenches, and they're going to be really good up front on both sides of the ball. Their number is 6.5. I just don't think losing skill positions is a big deal for them. And here's the key to me when you try and get to 7 for Illinois. Northwestern is a gimme now, and Purdue might be for them. We'll see. Purdue's probably a team that I should put on my stump list because I don't know if it's just as automatic as, oh, they're just going to suck now. But, like, I feel like Illinois I like teams – if you're not one of those elite talent teams, right, and both the teams we cover in Iowa State would be considered this too. I like the ones that know exactly what they are and what they're trying to do. There's no question to me what Brett Bielema is trying to build at Illinois, and it mimics a lot of what we've seen in Iowa City for the last 20 years. So I'm going to play the over 6.5 for Illinois. I think they can be a consistent 7-5 type of team.
Yeah, that's my best bet in the Big Ten, Chris. So we're on the same page here.
Okay, I love it.
Over 6.5. I've actually got them winning 8 games this year. I think the part where people are leery is because you look at their first 2 non-conference games, and those are tricky. Toledo is one of the top group of 5 teams. They play them first, and then they're at Kansas, who is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a tough start. I actually had them splitting that set or pair, I guess, and still going 8-4. So, I like. So they're really good in their front 7 on defense, which is huge in the Big Ten West. That's where they're built. Honestly, I didn't think their quarterback play was that good last year, so I'm not too worried about the quarterback play. Luke Altmaier comes in from Ole Miss; he's won the job for them. Another transfer. 6 out of the 7 Big Ten West quarterbacks are transfers. And then their schedule is not bad. They don't get Ohio State. They don't get Michigan.
Nope.
They host Penn State. So the toughest one they have in the East, they host. I could see Penn State losing that game. That's week 3. And then the other 2 are Maryland, Indiana. That's the other crossovers. So the schedule is not super daunting. They get Wisconsin at home. They get Nebraska at home. Honestly, I think they could be a dark horse Big Ten West pick. To be, and they're going to be good in the trenches, like you said. So you can count on that with Bielema.
They feel like one of the tricky teams for Iowa. If I'm looking at Iowa's number, like that feels like one of those games where it's just you can't really like pencil a win. Like I think that Illinois, because again, like I think for Iowa fans, you just got to think of it like this: they're trying to do what you did forever, and just ugly the game up and. I also, too, I've been talking to a lot of these guys around here at Circa today about the clock, and how much these new rules are going to – I think, Chad, these teams – and I'm fascinated to see what happens with Iowa because you've got that ridiculous 25-point thing. You've got a new quarterback, so it feels like they're going to – but I feel like the teams that really want to suck the life out of the ball are going to be able to do that. And I think – and I think it's really interesting with Iowa State, too, because you look at this, like all the guys that are out, and you still have this elite defense. If I'm Matt Campbell, I'm not snapping it until the last second. I am shortening these games as much as possible, and now these new rules just feels like these teams that want to do that are really going to be able to exploit it.
That's interesting. I wonder, while you're out there, you should ask Mike Palm, actually. Like, do you think unders early in the season will be a good play with people not quite thinking about the new rules? There could, because isn't it going to shorten the game by about 10 plays, something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. That's like a drive. So
yeah,
at least a drive. So in Iowa's case, that's 3 drives.
No kidding. Iowa's only going to get the ball like 3 times in a game now.
So anyway, that little side question there while you're in Vegas, but I agree. The last 2 games of the season for Iowa are tricky. So I don't know if we're going to talk about Iowa's over-under, which is 8.5.
Yeah, we can do that.
But the Illinois at home and Nebraska on the road to finish, I feel like is I don't know. I think you got to that'd be a lot to sweep those 2. I think you almost got to factor in a split there. So
Iowa is currently. I just printed these off the Circa win totals, the updated numbers. Iowa's at 8.5 with a little juice on the under at -125 now, the over at +105, which is interesting. And I wonder if the Noah Shannon thing at all, and not that should impact the line that much, but 8.5 and with juice with plus money to the over is kind of surprising to me with Iowa right now because it feels like more people are leaning over on them.
Yeah, it does. It actually, this line kind of opened 7.5 pretty much a couple months ago or whatever. So it's kind of inched its way up. I do think, we're on Iowa everywhere here. I think the Iowa State, game, I'm not saying like that's solidly in Iowa's column at all, but I think people look at that now as more of a, that is more likely an Iowa win than it was before.
Yeah,
I think
it changed. I mean, Iowa State was a favorite when that game first came out, and they'll be 3 to 6 point underdog now to Iowa, I would think.
Yeah, I thought I saw 2.5 recently, but maybe it's a little higher. I'm not sure. But, I mean, it's not like, it's not an automatic win at all for Iowa, but I think people are viewing it more so, they could win that game. And then they beat Western Michigan. They're 3-0. Yeah, they could get to 9. So I do have Iowa going 9-3. But, I mean, I would be just 8.5. I would just be a little sketchy on that. I feel a lot better at 8 just because you can get that push for the typical 8-4 Iowa season. But, and I would just wait out to see if Cade McNamara, but wait till week 1 to see what his status is for sure.
Okay, I was going to go there before we get to Wisconsin because Wisconsin's fascinating to me. Wisconsin, they're the team I'm obsessed with going into the season with this, like, going from –
You're always obsessed with them.
Well, I am, but they're doing the air raid now, and it's just like I got to see what this is going to be. But what the hell's going on with McNamara? Because it's been like I'm seeing all these different reports. It's like he's probable, and then no, he's questionable. And I know they're not being honest with us because college football coaches are never honest about injuries. I'm not oblivious to this. Do you think he'll play in week 1, I guess?
So I think he will play. However, and Kirk Ferentz said he was really optimistic that he would play week 1. I think I was the one that asked him that directly, that he was really optimistic. But then later I asked him, like, well, he's, would he tough it out regardless or whatever? He's like, yeah, but he said something about like, Mother Nature kind of plays a role. So I don't feel like he's out of the woods yet, basically reading the tea leaves there. So I think we just got to wait and see what, does Cade McNamara show up on Tuesday for media? I think my suspicion is, here's my suspicion, Chris, and 9 days out now till kickoff, is that Iowa coaches are probably having a lot of conversation about, hey, can we beat Utah State with Deacon Hill and just give Cade an extra week of rest? Because he really, the thrust of the season begins week 2, right, against Iowa. You have to beat Utah State. Iowa's favored by, I think, 24-25. You have to beat Utah State, obviously. You can't overlook that. You can't leave a Cade McNamara healthy on the table. But I think that's probably a legitimate conversation at this point if he's not quite 100%, because you want him to be 100% pretty much from week 2 on.
Well, and it is interesting too because Iowa State, like, there's not much expectation in names, but they're going to have a good defense.
Yeah, for sure. You can't put Deacon Hill out there against Iowa State.
So yeah, and my other question would be too. It's just like how locked in is McNamara because he's missed a lot of practice here the last week and a half, and there's also an aspect of like clearly you need him in that game, but it'd be good for him to get some reps in week 1, right? Like I don't know if I want to put a brand new quarterback timing wise and stuff where his first starts there in that game. That's tricky as well.
No, absolutely. And again, it's a fascinating conversation, isn't it? Because you can also, as a coach, you can think, wow, it would be so nice to get him that extra week of rest for the whole season. If I just knew we were going to win against Utah State, and then limit the injury risk for Cade in week 1. So if he goes out there, his quad's wrapped up tight and maybe he tweaks it again. Oh man, if he's out another 3 weeks, then you're missing the Iowa State game and the Penn State game. And he doesn't want to miss that whiteout game at Penn State.
No.
So, especially because that's the Big Ten opener, and he's got big plans, to get to the Big Ten championship game. So, I don't know. I think it's a fascinating conversation. I think he could definitely play. Maybe not definitely. He could definitely play if it was like the Big Ten championship game, something like that. But I think we just need to wait and see for sure. And even if Ferentz says I'm really optimistic he could play, doesn't mean he will play, right? So.
Yeah, they're all liars. All these coaches just lie. I had a couple of coaches that's getting back, apparently. I've been calling coaches liars the last couple. It's the truth. Like, I don't understand these fans and these media guys that it's like, well, the coach said that. They lie. This is what they do. It's like, oh, the Big 12 commissioner said that he's not interested in more. Yeah, he's lying to you. All these people, they just lie. That's what we're here for. We're trying to figure out who's telling the truth, right? Like, that's literally why we exist.
True.
All right, can we talk about Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I mean, let me find their number here. What's the updated number at Circa?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Elite coach, right? We all have faith that Luke Fickell's going to do a good job. 8.5 right now. Major juice on the over. You want to play the over on Wisconsin at Circa? You got to lay 150 right now.
No, I would not do it.
Plus 130 on the under. So you're getting a lot of value there. They're begging you to go over.
Yeah.
So I am shocked at how many of these sharp guys out here are pounding Wisconsin in the over.
Really? There's sharp ones, sharp guys pounding, huh?
I'm shocked. Like, I just know too much about the air raid. I've studied it for a decade, and it takes a while. I know their quarterback can do it. There's no doubt in my mind on the quarterback. The thing with the air raid, it's all about timing with like the receivers and the line, and that's what the entire thing is based on. Now, the good thing is their schedule sucks early. Like, it's not a good schedule. Like, they should be able to win some of these games, but I just, like, for them to just be like, yeah, they're going to go 9-3. They've completely revamped everything. There's no continuity from one year to the next. I don't know. But, again, then I look at their schedule, and it's like, yeah, I could totally see them sneaking into this. You had them – I was listening to Legends and Listeners, and you're higher on them than Doctorman is.
Right.
But you still don't seem to be that high on them. Where do you come down on them? Because, again, I don't know. Like, and then I look at, like, them in Iowa. It's like, yeah, I like it because it's in Madison, but I certainly, like, trust Iowa's defense and their special teams and all that stuff. Like, I think they're more solid than Wisconsin is right now. You're going into, like, year 50 of Kirk Ferentz compared to year 1 and a new guy. Like, I would give it to Iowa right now, I think.
Yeah, it's so I picked Wisconsin to go preface it by saying I picked Wisconsin to go 9-3. Now, this was about a month ago when I did my Big Ten picks. I will say, Chris, here in Iowa, I'm looking at the Circa app right now, and the over-under on Wisconsin is over 9 is plus 105. They have it.
Oh,
9.
wow.
So it's interesting in the state of Iowa right now. And then the under is a minus 125 at 9. So I like that under there. I would take that. If you're in Iowa, I would lean that way. I don't love it because they're probably going to start 5-0. So you're not going to be feeling that great.
No.
Early on, and then they get host Iowa. So that if you really like Iowa and you think Iowa's going to go into Madison and win that game, then maybe lean toward the under. But I'm leaning under because there's so much love for Wisconsin, and I don't know if it's quite earned yet. I mean, they were pretty average last year. Now, I know they brought in a new quarterback, new coach, all that, but that, brand new offensive coordinator, rarely does that just click, like you said. Phil Longo, very, very capable. Now, they have a great running back in Braylon Allen, and supposedly they're going to run it just as much as they pass it. So,
we'll see. That's air raid. You do run like that. That's but it's all based on timing again. And like the guys that are left over, it's like you're going from one extreme to the next. And I get it; they've been practicing, but man, when you start to see live bullets there when the season, like it's different. Like you look at the great air raid teams that kind of started off. It takes them half a year to. Now I think by the time Iowa rolls in there. I mean, I'd rather play that team early than later. I think it's Iowa's division. I really do. But, man, now this McNamara thing's terrifying to me if I'm an Iowa fan, though, Chad. Like, it's not like he's the most nimble guy of all time, right? The fact that he's already having injury problems is just terrifying. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, and the depth behind him right now is not good. So, yeah, if he's out for any stretch, they're going to be in trouble. And then, that Wisconsin line, I mean, that at Illinois game to me is kind of like I'm high on Illinois. So, sort of like the Michigan-Penn State thing. Like, you can kind of go double up, over Penn State, under Michigan, over Illinois, under Wisconsin, and bank on those two results.
They need more of these divisional games. I don't see division odds right here, but Illinois plus 5,000 to win the Big Ten. I obviously don't think that they'll win the league, but I would like to see if you could find a line on them to win the Big Ten West.
I'll see what I can find, yeah.
I think that'd be interesting. Chad, thanks, brother. Your guys' show is freaking awesome. I listened to it on the plane yesterday. I feel so lucky that you guys are hanging out with us here and that our friends at the Register and the Athletic are letting you guys have a little fun with us. So anything we can do to help you guys, you let us know, and thanks for your time here. This is great.
Thanks, buddy. And, hey, my Big 12 best bet, let me know if you like this or not, is over Kansas State. Kansas State
Interesting.
over 8.
They're not on my list either way but that's really interesting, and they're
Same
the
as
Iowa,
Illinois, right? Yeah.
They're the Iowa, Illinois. Like, exactly what they're going to do. You can kind of plug and play with those guys.
Yeah. Anyway, just wondered what you thought. Discuss.
Yeah,
later.
no, I would not fight that. I would never bet Kansas State under. I would never bet their under, ever. I would always play their over because of exactly what you just said. This transfer portal, too, man, with the coaching changes, like guys just firing coaches now in like September, like you're seeing in the portal, it has thrown such a wrench into how these like the power ratings between week 0 and week 4 like are just it's going to be like that flood that came through Las Vegas last night. Like it's fun though. Like I really like have enjoyed, because now that this gambling thing is kind of calming down, I've really enjoyed the last 2 weeks to just dig into the ratings and the data and it's fun to try and find value. And I just think like if you can find those teams that have 15, 16 starters back against the Wisconsins who are just completely restarting everything, like that's where the value's at early in the season. Do not go with your bias. Do not go with anything like that. Take those teams that have some continuity because it is so rare anymore. That's all I know.
I like it.
Love you, brother. Tell the family hi. Go get those kids picked up.
Yeah, I know. I got to go. Thanks,
all
buddy.
Right. See you, bud. Chad Leistikow for the Des Moines Register. My man. Kind enough to join us here on CW Pod. Looking forward to making an announcement. We do have a title sponsor of the CW Pod now, Aiden. Have that for you in the next couple of days. All right, so I've got like an entire list here, and we're just going to keep rolling through it. Mike Palm's going to be joining me in just a little bit here at Circa, as we are here all weekend to get signed up for Circa Million and Circa Survivor. You guys have until the 9th to get out here and do that. You do have to be in Vegas to sign up. We'll tell you more about it here in the coming weeks, coming days. All gas, no breakfast. Chris, is it hotter in Vegas than it is in Iowa? I don't think so. It's a different kind of heat. It's that dry heat out here, and it felt like I was in a rainforest when I left Iowa. I don't think it's hotter. Let's talk some of my other picks here. And Brandon is asking about the Oklahoma State over. Stay tuned. They are on my list, and I might be able to talk you out of that. All right, so I'm going to keep rolling down my list here on a lot of these plays. And, I'm trying to stick to as much Big 10 and Big 12 as possible, but I am going to jump outside as well. My main man Mike Palm's going to join me right now, and then we'll get into those. But, yeah, stay tuned on Oklahoma State because they're actually one of my most polarizing picks for the upcoming season. It is damn good to see this guy. I'm not over-exaggerating. It may have been
He's a junkie of the slam ball. We could have got him right on the court for the. I was sitting on the mob bench, 18-0 mob bench in the championship. This guy would have been all over himself.
I would have killed for those tickets.
Yeah. Aiden was like, "Am I going to get to meet Derek? Because I watch him on slam ball all the time."
Yeah, slam ball. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, he loves it.
He sleeps through Kenny and I's podcast. But slam ball. That's what trips the trigger.
How's signups going?
Yeah, just 40, 42, 60. You know, they're
I
rolling.
got four. You got four more coming from me, buddy.
There's over 100 already today. 4260 was the number I pulled at 1120, and 2450 in the millions. I think we're going to blow past 10,000 in Survivor. We're going to have a $10 million pool, and it'll be a photo finish on getting 6,000 in the millions. That's my take. A lot of people think we'll be short. I think it'll be real close. We were 1,300 short last year. We'll certainly go over 4,700.
If you could play one.
I would play Survivor. I'm not smart enough to do five, like you. You know, Trent Condon, he gives 17 college basketball games a night. Hits
Condon's
15.
a sicko.
But I mean, I can't do that. I mean, like I can usually feel good about 2 pro games a weekend. I have a pretty good feel for, and then the third one's like, 4 and 5. Come on,
Five's hard.
Just college. It's a different story. I feel you can come up with 7 picks in college every week, but. To me, and Survivor, the stories are just – here's the beauty of Survivor, Chris. When you lose, it's a bad beat, right? It's shocking. Either something bad happened. How did the team that was a 2-touchdown favorite lose? It could never happen again. And you can't wait to get in next year with more entries. It's just a beautiful contest.
I'm screwed. So listen to this. I don't know if Ken told you about this, but one with my buddies, I went 19-0 last year.
They didn't take your pick.
Well, now I'm coming to play here with you guys, and I'll lose in week 3.
How much did you win at home?
$700.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
No,
that's really.
But it's not
with the guys you run with. Maybe it is, but
it's not $6 million.
It's not 6, not 10 million. It's not the guys. Each got 3 million last year. The two guys.
I saw.
Although I swear they made a deal. I had the way they react. The guy reacted that lost with the Colts the last week with the Texans and all that. I'm pretty sure
that was heartbreaking.
They had a end of the tip and the fourth down. The ball goes. I mean, it was just all ridiculous. But I'm pretty sure they probably all saved either $1.5 million or $2 million there, and so.
I sure hope so.
But anyhow, not to diminish and say, I only got $2 million instead of $3 million. I mean,
I got 700.
And those two entries that ended up winning it after week 6 only had one entry left each. The one guy only bought one entry, and the other one had 9 and was down to 1 by week 6, and both ran the table.
Wow,
that's pretty amazing.
Let me ask you on the college game. Trying to find values early, right?
Treacherous.
Well,
these are all new teams.
That's my point. Like, so are you? Because this is where I'm struggling. I think, like, well, if a team had a team like, let's say, Michigan or, one of these teams with like 15, 17 starters back against, throw like Wisconsin out there, that's completely different. They're running the freaking air raid now, right? Like compared to good old Wisconsin. Like normally early, I would say I really want to lean on those teams with continuity and just blindly play the value and the stability. But like some of these teams, I mean, like Colorado is the worst team in the country, and I still am not high on them. But I don't know. Like, can I really just say like, oh, they have 2 starters returning? Well, all those guys sucked anyways, right?
TCU said they're not even going to look at the tape from last year's game in Boulder. It's a totally different team.
Can't.
Why even look at anything that had to do with them last year? I think that teams meld quicker now with this portal. I mean, would you have thought that USC and LSU would have done that well under first-year head coaches? I wouldn't have.
Definitely not the way LSU did.
Yeah.
In that league.
That's pretty shocking to me what Kelly was able to do in his first year there. So I just think it's, this first couple weeks, be quick to change your opinion on teams because of so many new players. And the line moves, I would say this is week 0. I mean, you could have got on the better. These lines just are going across 7. The one game 10 through, to 6.5. The San Diego State game's intriguing to me. I mean, that was 4 down to 2, now back to 3.
Yeah.
It's like you're not betting the team, you're just betting the number. You're going to take 3.5 and lay 2,
Yeah.
And just keep doing that would be my theory here. USC's a runaway. We ain't taking any bets on San Jose at all. Caleb Williams ought to be, he's plus 450 to win the high. He ought to be like 2-1. I mean, if he doesn't get hurt, he's winning. I mean, it's the second year under Riley. The last year of the Pac-12, they're laden with quarterbacks. There's going to be a bunch of shootouts in that league. He's going to put up incredible numbers.
Yeah,
he's winning the Heisman unless he gets hurt.
I actually had them. So this show that I'm doing right now, I'm giving out all my over/under picks, and I have USC as an over. It's I think you guys have it at 10 right now. Like, the worst case you're pushing. Right? I mean, I can't imagine that team.
You're right. Worst scenario, you're pushing.
The other thing I've been kind of kicking around here, and I don't want to overreact to this, is these new clock rules. But hear me out here. I do think that
I have a strong opinion on this.
Okay. What is your opinion?
It sucks for a person that's an in-game player that watches the game they're betting, because there was a huge advantage to be gained by sensing how quickly crews started clocks. There's huge variance. The Big Ten, the best in the country at starting that clock up, which is good for an under. I mean, if you weren't throwing the ball from the sideline to get it to a hash, most of their crews were under 3 seconds in restarting the clock. You had other conferences that averaged 11 seconds between the time that the whistle blew and the time they restarted the clock, which is not built into any algorithm that's setting the game total, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you don't stop the clock unless it's the 2 minutes of the halves, right? I heard an interesting theory this morning from Bad Powers when I was hosting Follow the Money with Paul Howard about these young offensive coordinators are going to overcompensate for the plays they're losing because the clock's not stopping by even trying to go quicker. Mm-hmm. And so he has it built in, and he's a pro college bettor. He thinks it will add it's worth 2.5 to 3 points a game.
Wow.
Not stopping the clock, reducing the total 2.5 to 3, but maybe he's overstating it. But he'll have to see how much they try to compensate.
Well, I'm looking at a team like Iowa or Iowa State. Okay, so they're going to struggle.
Are they still fielding a team this year?
They're going to have a team, really strong defensive team though. Okay, like they might have the best defense in the Big 12.
Well, that is not saying much, but go ahead.
Point being,
that's like AAA. But anyhow.
Hey, stop it. Now, you and me are going to get in a
That's a
fight
nonsense. I mean, that's a basketball league.
It is a basketball league. I won't fight you
Definitely a
there.
basketball league.
So, point being, Mike, isn't it a lot, like for a team like that that's going to want to shorten a game?
Mm-hmm. Easier
You
to.
can really shorten the game
yes,
now.
sir. Yes,
Do we pay more attention to unders right now for these types of
Well, I'm an under player, but that's going to
Yeah.
be built into these numbers, and we'll see how teams react to it. But obviously, they're not. It's much easier to go at a relaxed pace when that clock's already running than to tell the quarterback with 18 on the clock, okay, stay in the huddle, stay in the huddle. They're going to walk up to the line. They're going to want to get things going. I'm always one watching the clock when you bet an under, screaming, start the clock, start the clock, start. I can't imagine how college football was 25 years ago when we were watching it, when it never restarted after first downs.
Yeah.
Out of bounds. You know what I mean?
Oh,
how
yeah.
long those games were, and they're still long, but my God, it's hard to even watch those replays.
Yeah. Do you go to games in stadiums very much anymore?
Well, football is a TV sport, right? But I had a great time when we came back and Wild Rose let me go to the Texas-Iowa State game. What a great atmosphere that was.
Yeah.
I think.
How many years ago? 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
When
And Iowa State
the
punked
blackout.
them.
It was the blackout. Yeah, they absolutely punked
31-7,
yeah,
I believe. Yep.
unbelievable. But what a great atmosphere it is. You
Yeah.
can't. But from a betting perspective, it's not great. The angle's not great. And then I'm watching the Iowa Northwestern, who was playing at Northwestern that night, right, on the TV behind me. Really kind of more than this game because I can watch a full view of it.
Well, man, my point is sitting in these press boxes where you don't – they're so sterile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the windows are shut.
Yeah.
And these breaks just – they're killer. How long – did the breaks for all of these TV timeouts we've got. And I remember growing up going to games at Kinnick. It's like, oh, the guy just walked out onto the field. Okay, we're at a TV. But, God, it wasn't as much as it is now.
We would throw things at the NBC guy at Notre Dame. They would say the 5-minute commercials. Let them play. I mean, they're all out there. They're ready to go. And the NBC guy's holding them up, and the officials are always over there looking.
Yeah.
And it seemed like 5 minutes every time they went to a commercial.
It's gotten to be excruciating.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other things I wanted to hit on with you. What's the fastest growing sports betting sport out here? Like are people betting on like the Formula One more?
No.
Soccer? What? I'm just curious. Okay, I want to get in on
We're
the next
not big
big
in
thing.
soccer, so I'm big betting, but we're not big booking it. That's not one of our strengths.
What do you think? Like in 5 years, 10 years, is going to be a bigger bet sport? Women's basketball?
Women's college basketball is interesting. They bet the WNBA game by game, but not really futures.
Yeah.
The Women's World Cup did nothing. Zero.
Really?
Zero. Less than zero.
Did the time
Even
zone?
the women's games. Well, the men's games had the time effect. And the USA women were put at prime time their first two games.
Yeah.
I think we wrote $400 on the first U.S. game.
Seriously?
Now, they're not a lovable group, but you would think that there would have been more than that. I hate to say this is an up-and-coming sport because it's already there, but, geez, UFC is just they've done such a great job marketing. They did through the pandemic.
The pandemic was huge. It got me hooked.
It's the biggest crossover as far as gender, too, that women watch and bet UFC.
Really?
Football a little bit, but I think UFC number one. Not baseball. Women hate baseball. There's not a woman I've ever dated or married to that could sit through a baseball game. And even if it's 2.5 hours, there's just not enough action. It's not
Are you
interesting.
seeing more with the baseball rules? Because their TV numbers and stuff are up. Are more people betting them?
The handle's been good. I think it's much more within the attention span of this generation now. But 2.5 hours, what every other sport plays outside of football. And football can go as long as they want because the product is just so good. I love it. I wish they'd do away with the ghost runners. Who cares? The game's 2.5 hours when it goes to the 10th. Let them play a few innings, Especially now with the expanded rosters coming.
Do we have any big plans here at Circa for this Formula One race? Last time we talked,
we have tickets that we'll try to get players to go to. We're going to do a watch party at Stadium Swim. We've tried to promote this thing. It's just been like the Canadian one. We did a big thing on Father's Day. Like 8 people came. I don't know how it's priced in the market. I mean, the tickets are like $2,500 to go watch the race.
So I'm like a huge fan. I've been a Formula One fan for 20 years.
But the same team wins. I mean,
I know.
It's not much of a betting sport right now, is it?
No, I mean, unless you just bet Verstappen every week and you just and I have.
And keep rolling it.
I have.
Yeah.
Like I've actually done really well betting on his Verstappen blindly. But you have to do it before qualifying because he's going to get the pole at every race.
And then it drops.
Yeah. You have to bet it before the qualifying and just blindly do it. It's funny because when they announced they were coming to Vegas, like I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. But
I remember on the radio you were so excited about it.
But all these people in Vegas hate it. Like
I
you
was
guys
more
are
excited at the time because I thought there'd be interest. But the disruption to the city is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like this was a couple months ago. We did like a little staycation at the Cromwell, and then my wife had a gift certificate at the Caesar shops, and we weren't going to walk the baby across. It took us 45 minutes to cross the street. You got to go. It's just so disruptive, and now I guess the first year will be the most building the track, but we're stuck with this for 10 years, and they've come in like bullies too, right? If you don't pay the fee, we're gonna blind you in your restaurant. If you don't pay $1,500 per max capacity of your restaurant, we're gonna shine great lights in front of you. We're gonna put objects in front. I mean, they've come in even worse than the NFL, and the NFL is sort of they are able to do it. But
yeah,
I mean the Super Bowl, which isn't great because Las Vegas is already the best place to be for the Super Bowl. Now it's here, so there's a lot of people that aren't really football fans or bettors that are going to be going to the Super Bowl and be here.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everything. I look forward to hanging out at Bar Canada tonight.
Oh, that's fun. I think that was my favorite part of the weekend last year was this meet and greet at Bar Canada. And I get to be I could have dinner at Andiamo. We're starting a first-time annual event called a Contest Champions Dinner tonight, where Derek and I and Jeff Benson eat with anyone that's split a survivor share through the years or been top 5 in the millions. So I think we got 18 people coming for it. So this should be a good tradition.
Well, hopefully I can join you next year.
Did you do millions entries?
I'm going to, yeah.
How many are you going to end up with altogether?
2 and 2, so 4.
4
altogether.
I think what did Kenny do? How many did he do? 3? But he's got 12 partners in each one.
Yeah, I don't know.
3. He's got corporations and all.
Me and Hassel are doing a couple, and then.
How about the weather girl? You should do one for the weather girl. I think that's an interesting hire.
Well, she's we're doing some big things over there.
We want her to come in on Sunday with a putt to win the tournament. Put on it. We'll take it off and we'll have her do some presentation.
She's fantastic. She's a Nebraska grad, so we give her credit.
But she's an Iowa girl.
She's a Nebraska grad.
Where'd she grow up?
She grew up in
neither state.
No, she grew up in Iowa.
Where? How could you?
She's a
Who
Nebraska.
did the interview?
No, she's from Nebraska.
Oh, she is.
She's from Nebraska, yeah. But then her husband is an Iowa guy. I'm trying to think. There's a connection there. And her husband's a meteorologist, too, so I get it all mixed up. But yeah.
Is there competitive?
No, he's National Weather Service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's just
Jim Cantori guy.
He's a meteorologist of the people.
Yeah.
He's just here to protect us. But yeah. So 2 and 2 for me. We're gonna do on the show where we make our 5 picks every week, me and Hassel, and then I'm gonna let the Survivor thing go again, and I'm hopeful that I feel like I blew my wad last year. It's like, what are the chances you can do it again?
Well, that's a poor attitude to have.
Yeah,
you should be encouraged by your results last year.
I'm realistic.
Nah, you're negative is what you are. You're a pessimist.
Call it what you want. I think I'm a realist.
You want to know why you got the glass to begin with. That's the kind of guy you are.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you,
We'll
Chris.
See you tonight.
See you at Bar Canada tonight.
You'll see it tonight.
Awesome.
Looking forward to your insight this year as well.
Nice for you to bring the young lad out.
Aiden's going to get the real experience tonight when we get him over to Bar Canada over at the D.
Got to get him on a dice.
I want to play that one, the horse racing game. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that tonight. You can teach me how to do that. He's Mike Palm from Circa. Appreciate you, brother. Always good insight. We have a good time. Iowa native. And so what, Aiden? You lost our audio there for a minute? Is that what'd you do? Everybody's talking in the chat to me here.
Yeah. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, you can.
I fucked up a bit, but we're back.
You recovered?
I recovered.
Attaboy. Actually, these remote broadcasts, you just never know what's going to happen. Let's be honest. That's just how they work. Good job recovering. I now am going to give you guys my buys and sells and all that stuff because we've got Leistikow done. Nice of Mike Palm to stop by. And, again, I'm trying to keep these as much Big 12 and Big 10 centric as possible. Although I also realize that I'm not going to. Also, please realize that I'm not exclusively going to do that. And I'm going to go to the Big 12 now with a couple of overs that I really like in the Big 12. And I'll start with Baylor. This feels to me like a team that's being completely overlooked by the media. I'll explain it to you. So Baylor's number is at 7. I just want to check on that here, make sure it hasn't been updated. But their number is at 7. And the thing I don't understand, people forget that they were in the Big 12 championship game 2 years ago. They were in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago. Same coach, same system. I think Blake Shapen probably gets not enough love as far as being an elite talent type of quarterback in this league. I trust Dave Aranda defensively. 7. I like the over here for Baylor. I think that them and this other team have both got a shot to play for a Big 12 championship, and that's Texas Tech. You return an up-and-coming coach, another Baylor guy. You've got an experienced quarterback. I'm not in love with Shuck, but you've got 11 starters back on offense. You had 8 wins in a debut season. Like, I know there's some questions there on defense for Tech. They lost a lot of production at linebacker. But what am I looking for? They're good up on the offensive and defensive line. 7.5 is the number for Texas Tech. I'm going to play the over for Baylor and Texas Tech. Those are my 2 Big 12 teams that I think will exceed expectations this year. A few other teams that I'm buying, and I mentioned this with Mike Palm, that where do you find 3 losses with USC? I certainly can't. You have the best quarterback in the country by a wide margin. Lincoln Riley is the best quarterback coach potentially in the history of the sport. I know that's a really big statement, but I'm serious. Look at his Heisman trophies. Look at his, look at what he's done with just guys. Now he's got maybe the best quarterback in college football in the last 10 years, in Caleb Williams. They're locked to start 6-0. Look at them this way. Numbers at 10 for USC. They will start 6-0. It is a guarantee. Can you really see them going 3-3 the rest of the way with that talent? No chance. They're like, worst case scenario here is a push. I love the over for USC. The only kicker is that the Pac-12 is pretty good this year, which is kind of crazy considering the league is imploding. But the Pac-12 is as good as it's been since I've been doing this for a while now. Other team that I really, really like the over for is Florida State. It's really, really rare to have 17 starters returning in an elite quarterback, okay? And that's what they have in Jordan Travis. Travis, to me, going into this season, quarterback-wise, system-wise, Mike Norvell is an offensive genius. I love Mike Norvell. I think that he's a future national championship type coach. I don't know if it'll be at Florida State. We got to watch what's going on in the ACC. But that combo of Norvell and Travis is second to only Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams coach quarterback in college football, and he's got talent around him. Their running back, Trey Benson, is going to be the highest drafted running back in the country after this year. And this guy started to kind of have a coming out party last year. Johnny Williams, 6'7". You heard that right. 6'7" wide receiver. 9.5 currently, I think. Here at Circa is the number for Florida State. 9.5. Yeah, I'm pounding the over for Florida State. All right, we'll get to some of these sells. I want to thank some of our great sponsors here on Iowa Everywhere. Of course, we are in the Channel Seed Studio, the mobile Channel Seed Studio that is here at Circa in Las Vegas this week. Really appreciate all of our great channel seedsmen who are out there, and they've got the big harvest season coming up. Shout out to all of our great agriculture. A lot of you guys listening in combines, tractors, your trucks. We appreciate all of that. I had one other over. And when I interviewed Hal Mummy last month, he told me about his son being the offensive coordinator at Colorado State. So I started doing some research on Colorado State, and shockingly not, you know who led all of college football last year in completion percentage? Colorado State quarterback Clay Millen. 72% of his passes he completed last year. Why? He's running the Mummy air raid. 5 is the number here going over for Colorado State. We have to. It's Mummy's kid. We have to play.
For the culture.
Yes. We're a Hal Mummy show, okay? We're a Hal Mummy show. We need to get some Hal Mummy. By the way, Aiden, so they were like selling off the entire university at Iowa Wesleyan?
Yep.
Missed out on a couple of bids. I actually made some bids for that.
What did you
stuff.
bid on?
I bid on the big Home of the Air Raid sign. And once it got above $150, I was out.
Really? I thought you would have gone all in for it.
Well, if they would have sent it to me, I would have. But you have to drive to Mount Pleasant to pick this thing up. And I'm like, I don't have time to do that. And I thought, if I win this thing, I'm going to have to ask our listeners, if somebody will pick it up for me. If there's somebody. And then I really, really wanted the banner, the national conference.
That one would have been sick for the studio.
That's what I wanted. It's like that light purple banner. Yeah. And it only had 1990, Iowa Wesleyan. But I'm going over for Hal Mummy's son. I'm just representing here. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my sells. And I actually have a really strong opinion about 2 of these, for sure. And they're both Big 12 teams. And I'm going to start with Oklahoma State. And we had somebody one of our listeners was asking me about Oklahoma State earlier, and I think I'm done with them. I think I'm done with Gundy. I want to pull up their schedule here really quick. Here's the thing. I do think there's a caveat here where this could go one of 2 ways, where this is either Gundy's last stand, right, where it comes out of nowhere and he's 10-2 here, and we're all like, oh, man, the guy's a genius. We've seen that happen. I think this is going to be more like Gary Patterson's the end. If you watch, I love Gundy, by the way. Not necessarily as a person, I don't know him, but I'm saying I like watching his press conferences. He tells you what he thinks. He gives you opinions. He's coming across to me as a fairly crotchety old man now, who he's complaining. He's always he's playing the victim. I don't like it. And I think the game's starting to, not necessarily schematically, I think he's still a really smart football guy. I think the game's passing him by as far as the business of college athletics. One of the kickers here for them will be a road game on September 9th at Arizona State, a new Big 12 team. I don't think they're going to be very good, but if you're looking at this number for Oklahoma State, that's a big one. Don't look past – so their schedule's hard. South Alabama is like a 9 or 10 win team in the Sun Belt, and they got to go to Stillwater on September 16th. There's so much to replace from a team that really wasn't that good a year ago. When I look back at Iowa State's year last year, there's one game that really makes me sick to my stomach, and it was that game at Oklahoma State. I'm selling hard on Gundy. In fact, I started to sell on Gundy well over a year ago, and I'm not giving up now. The other Big 12 team that I'm fading is Cincinnati. The number is at 5. And this might be my favorite preseason play in all of college football. First of all, I like playing the under of these teams that are going up in competition. Always kind of a theory of mine to go that route. But you have to add to it that Cincinnati's replacing perhaps the greatest coach in the history of its school in Luke Fickell. You bring in Scott Satterfield, who, Louisville basically was happy to say goodbye to. They were fired up about that. It's a rebuilding year combined with a step up in competition. 5 is the number. They've already faded that down. It started at 5.5. I don't think Cincinnati, this looks like a 3 or a 4 win team to me. Now, I will say I think long term, I think it's one of the best jobs in the new Big 12. I think you could make an argument it's top 3 job in the new league. But it's going to take a little bit. You look at all these teams that switch leagues that have had success eventually. TCU is one of them. Takes a while when you go up. And, I think UCF with Gus Malzahn, they were already kind of treating that program like an SEC program. And Cincinnati was too, but the problem is the transition. I hate that for them. I don't think they're going to be very good. They got that kid from Arizona State as the quarterback, but man, he's just a guy. The other one that's fascinating to me is Colorado. 3.5 is the number. I want to read you Colorado's non-conference schedule here. So you got to go to TCU on week 1. Nebraska comes to town in week 2. Now, that's interesting because they're in the same type of spot as Colorado, except I think that Matt Rule's program's much more solid footing right now. And then they've got that Colorado State game in week 3, and we just talked about them. Are
we going to make an Iowa Everett road trip to see How Mummy versus Deion Sanders, or How Mummy's son versus Deion Sanders?
Let's go. If you're Colorado, are you confident going into that one? You got this.
I feel like Colorado fans, the confidence is through the roof right now.
That's why I want to take the under. Because these guys, every public Joe is going to bet on Colorado every week.
So
just because of Prime.
Beyond this year, are you a Prime believer?
I think Prime will have flashes of greatness, but no. Am I a Prime believer at Colorado or in general?
Both.
Definitely not at Colorado.
Do you think Colorado's a stepping stone still?
Yes. I think Prime would be like the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys someday. He ain't staying at Colorado. There's just no way.
See, I've always had this theory that these NFL legends should just go back and coach college teams, and then all the high school kids will be like, yeah, I want to go play for Deion Sanders because that's Deion Sanders. But I don't know how good of a coach he actually is.
Well, I think that from what I've seen, that they have some pretty good skill guys, but they just haven't even been recruiting linemen.
Don't need them, just throw it up.
Their number is at 3.5 for a reason. And it just feels to me like everybody's just all blinded by it.
I think there's just a lot of shine around.
They could get the shit kicked out of them in week 1, realistically.
Right.
And again, we don't really know anything about Nebraska either. But in that week 2 game, it's okay, that place will be sold out and everything. But the one thing I think with Rule's teams that we've learned over the years is he's really good up front. I think Nebraska is going to be okay. Again, with these teams, when you're not a blue blood, do you have an identity? Illinois has an identity. Iowa has an identity. I think Nebraska under Rule will have an identity. I don't know if it'll be this year. What is Colorado's identity going to be other than just the flashy head coach?
Right.
I think they're going to start 0-5. I think Nebraska will beat them. I got Colorado State in that game. That's going to be our new team. We need to get some Rams gear for the studio.
There we go.
So this is going to continue on with that theme. And this will be part of our week 0 conversation when Hassel gets out here. Is this Hartman, this quarterback from West Virginia, or not West Virginia, from Wake Forest that's now at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's playing on Saturday. It's really kind of the marquee game of weeks. Week 0 is pretty bad this year. I mean, you got USC's playing. They're like a 30-point favorite. Wake Forest, and I'm very – so hear me out. Like, Williams, how do you have a strong opinion on Wake Forest football? Okay? Fair question. Fair question. Wake Forest, the number here at Circa is at 6.5. Okay? And, again, firm believer, covered Iowa State forever. Same type of program where not exactly rich in talent, expectations, whatever. Wake Forest has been really good lately. This Dave Clawson can really, really coach. He's really good. But they just lost the best quarterback in school history. Elite is this Sam Hartman. On top of that, you return 2 offensive linemen. You return nobody from your defensive line. These middle to lower class talent type of programs. Did we learn anything from the middle of the Ferentz era and what's going on right now at Iowa State? To expect these type of programs to win consistently and to always be above 5 is really hard to do. It's really, really difficult. And the number for this Wake Forest team is at 6, and it screams take the under to me. Lose the quarterback, questions at defense. I mean, I don't think, like, long-term I like this Dave Clawson. I think he's a really good coach, but I don't think they sustain it. So there you go. Those are my under picks. Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Colorado, Wake Forest. My overplays, Michigan, Illinois, Baylor, Utah, USC, Florida State, Texas Tech, and Colorado. I'm a lot higher on overs. Can you tell? And then I have a couple of Big 12 teams real quick. We hit on this with Wisconsin where I'm just totally stumped on these teams. I think the Big 12 is a total crapshoot. I don't know who's going to win. But I don't know what TCU is going to be. Was last year a fluke or is it a sign of things to come? Right? Like they're bringing back all these new guys. But they were picked like 9th in the league last year, and we all thought they were going to suck. And they played for a national championship. So I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from TCU. No clue. Oklahoma's a little weird to me. Their number's at 9.5. Right now I have them being favored in 11 games, but that seems really high to me. But I also don't know if it's totally fair to completely hate on them because of Dylan Gabriel's injuries last year, right? So this is a team that I could see going either way. I could see Brent Venables being fired after this year. Really could. I think he could be on his way out of going into the SEC if they don't show something. I think we're 6-7 last year. Other team that I'm starting to be a little bit more bullish on is Kansas. Again, you guys are starting to see what I'm looking for here when you have a good coach and a good quarterback returning, and that's Kansas. Lance Leipold is – there's reason why you see some of these ratings. It's like the best coaches in college football, and he's in the top 10. He's really good. Guy was a legend in D3 there in the state of Wisconsin. He's won at Buffalo. He's a really good coach. 17 returning starters. A quarterback that at the time when he went down was in the Heisman conversation last year. Now, they haven't played anybody up until then. But really heavy in the portal. My initial gut when I started to dig into the season with Kansas was to play the under because of, like, I don't like teams that overachieved the year before, right? Like, because usually there's a mean type thing. But, man, with their amount of offense coming back, I'm starting to lean that Kansas could win 7 or 8 games, which is crazy, but I just think Leipold's that good. I don't want to bet against him. He's Kyle Whittingham for me. I don't want to bet against Kyle Whittingham. I just trust him. Remember when Kansas went and won at Texas a couple of years ago? They hadn't won a game in like however many years in the Big 12, and they won at Texas. You know, like he's a really freaking good coach, man. I don't want to bet against him. Should I move Kansas out of the stumped category, I guess is what I asked next. I don't know. Let's go through some of our comments here. Iowa Everywhere. If you're watching on the stream, hello, CW Pod from Circa. We're up here in this beautiful ballroom. There are I think they said 30-plus media outlets that are they kind of set it up like a Radio Row for Super Bowl, and really appreciate them asking us to be a part of it. This is really neat. We'll be here tomorrow for 2 guys named Chris. Hassel will be here with us as well, and we will do a full show. I think Derek Stevens from Circa is going to hop on with us tomorrow. Took Aiden to the Strip last night because Aiden had never seen it, and he realized how horrible that place is.
Circa till we die.
Circa until we die. We're not leaving Fremont Street the rest of the time.
Nope. No reason to.
I was trying to explain to Aiden, the Strip is not you can't just walk across the street.
See, I've been told that, and I always thought yeah, okay. Whatever.
It's like an interstate.
Oh my gosh, it literally is, which I didn't know. I mean, I didn't check my step count last night, but
I did.
What were you at?
15,000.
I believe it.
Something, and we were on a plane all day.
Right.
So it was all last night. Let's go through some of these comments here. Ryan says that he is tired of hearing about Deion. Colorado is irrelevant, has been for 20 years. They won't win more than 4 games this year. They're not irrelevant. That's the thing. Will they not exceed 4 games? I agree with you. They're not irrelevant because they have a head coach who's challenging the system. I appreciate that. I like disruptors. Deion Sanders is a disruptor. Coach Prime, whatever we're going to call. I don't want to offend him. I appreciate disruptors, but I don't think it's going to work there. I don't think you can just turn over your roster like that. No, he's done it for the first year. We'll see how long will you keep doing that. But to me, it's not sustainable. Again, what is Colorado? It's not a blue blood program, and it never will be. You've got to be able to develop. I still think that the Kirk Ferentzes, the Matt Campbells of the world, there's value in development and not just bringing in 40 new guys every single year. So that's what's just I know Colorado has talent, but if they're all constantly running for their lives and you can't stop anybody, it's pretty damn hard. They're not irrelevant, though, because they've got to disrupt their coach who's really changing the game. Lightsmith Media, Nebraska will be a 6-win team. Rule is worth 3 wins. Let me pull up Nebraska's schedule. Because for what it's worth, I really like Rule 2. I really think that we've said this about every Nebraska hire other than, who's that guy from Oregon State that Mike Riley, remember him? That was a bad hire.
He's at Oregon State now?
Is he back? No.
Oh, I thought you said he was. Okay.
No, he's from Oregon
Gotcha.
State. They hired him from there. Nebraska's schedule is actually you get to Minnesota and at Colorado. Boy, we're going to know a lot about them in the first couple weeks. They play a week from today. Minnesota and Nebraska up in Minneapolis to kick off the season. Northern Illinois, they've actually lost at home to them. Louisiana Tech, you would assume they would win those. They will lose to Michigan. They will lose at Illinois. The thing about the West now is just Like, I like these teams and you play their over because Purdue and Northwestern are going to be so bad. Like, there's no question about those teams. They're just bad. Michigan State, that's a toss-up for Nebraska. They could certainly get to 6 wins. And I think that it feels like with it certainly feels like with Rule everywhere he goes, he's a lot like Harbaugh. It's just his teams are just not bad. And the Frost thing was all flash. Like, we all got hoodwinked on that one. I did. I thought Frost was going to be great there. I think it was smart of them to get outside of their little Husker Nation, bubble. And they got a guy who's about the substance, and that's Rule. So I don't know if it'd be a 6-win team. 6.5 is their number, so that would actually underachieve if Nebraska. So that tells you that's what Circa's got them at is 6.5 right now. But yeah, I think that they could easily get there for sure. I think it'd be a disappointment to those in Lincoln if they're not. Live Hard One. That's a good name. Asking about the Iowa State line and the over. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. What does Circa have it at? They are back on the board here. I think it's at 5. Yeah, it was at 5 this morning. Good luck.
Does the quarterback situation factor in at all?
Yeah. Or are you talking about the competition, like who wins the competition?
I'm talking J.J. Cole started for 12 games versus Rocco Beck.
Yeah.
Started
No,
for 12
I don't
games.
think so. I don't think it matters. Do you?
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think it matters. Because I think whoever wins that battle, they're going to have very strict, don't turn the ball over.
Because honestly, I could see it more being someone starts 4 games, someone starts 8 games, rather than someone starting all 12 games. So it's not going to matter, I don't think.
I would agree with that. The thing about Iowa State is just you got to look at, like, their defense is going to be elite. It will be for that. It was last year. They bring pretty much everyone back. They will be really good defensively, and I think that if I'm Matt Campbell, and I don't think fans will like this, but I am sucking the air out of the ball, and I am playing to my defense, and we're going to look a lot like Iowa has if I'm Matt Campbell. And it could be excruciating at times. And you pray that you have an offensive line to be able to run the football with. Because if you can do that, I think Iowa State could be back in bowl game. But that it really so it comes to me, it's like that in this it's the kickers thing. Like if you don't have a kicker and you're trying to play possession games and lean on your defense, but you can't make a 35-yard field goal, you're toast. So it's that's the thing with last year. They were horrible on offense. Turned the ball over, couldn't run. They were bad on offense. But they were still in pretty much every game except the TCU game at the end because of their defense. Why didn't they win them? Because they couldn't make field goals and they turned the ball over too much. And they couldn't run. So it's like if you can go from 2 yards of carry to 4, which is a huge step, but, man, I'll take it. Limit your turnovers and be better on special teams, you should go to a bowl game, even despite everything that's happened, because of your defense. But, like, those are big assumptions that it's just going to happen. I don't know. I do think, like, if you start to go through a lot of these power ratings and stuff, people still really like Iowa State because of that defense. They're going to be in these games. It's just, do you have the punch to be able to push through it? All right, we were waiting to see if Aaron Oster from Circa was going to join us. I don't think we were going to do a little preview for we're going to shift gears. Hey, he's here. Aaron, come on over. I was just thinking about wrapping up or not, but I was like, man, I really want to talk some AEW wrestling. There you go, brother. I'm fascinated with. So this is the CW pod, and if you all are not pro wrestling fans, hey, yeah, you know what? Deal with it. My guy Aaron from Circa is here with me, and he and I share in common our passion for professional wrestling. First of all, how's the weekend going so far? Kicking off today.
I mean, it's crazy. You can see it just up and down, people broadcasting, interviews, talking with each other, and we're just really getting started. Obviously, tonight we have our big party, which you are coming to, correct?
Yes.
Yes, we have big party over
Be there
at
tonight.
Bar Canada, which means lots of free drinks and Sigma Derby.
So I've never played it before. I was just talking to Palm about it.
Oh, yeah. So you've seen those like horse racing games around Vegas, right?
Yes.
The ones. This is the old school version, the mechanical version, where it's just like it's not these fancy horses. It's just like da 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 da. It's the greatest thing ever.
They look like toy horses from
Yeah.
like when you were a kid.
Yes, and this is the only one that still exists in Vegas.
Will you teach me how to play it tonight?
Yes. I can't play it anymore, so I'll have to live vicariously through you.
You just teach me how.
Yes.
And then I'm just gonna live at that thing tonight.
Yes.
That's my plan.
That's a perfect plan.
I'm far. I got 4. We're gonna have 4 with Iowa Everywhere entrances into the competitions.
Both Survivor and Million, just Survivor.
2 and 2.
Awesome.
That's the plan.
I love it.
That's the plan. And we're gonna kind of walk people through it as we go throughout the year.
Perfect.
On the show and all that stuff. Yeah, this is my first time. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Oh, I mean, there's nothing like it. You pay all your money up front, you get an entire season's worth, unless you lose first week in Survivor. But we won't talk about that because that's not going to happen.
Jeez.
Would never happen ever.
A lot of people.
53% lost last year on week 1.
Last year was brutal.
Yeah,
was that higher than normal?
Oh, I mean, last year because it was
Colts.
It was Colts. It was the Broncos losing to the Seahawks, and there's one other big one. Was Cincinnati lose or something? I can't remember. There was one other big one, but 53% lost week 1 last year.
We share a common passion, and that is professional wrestling. So this is CW pod, so we can talk about whatever the hell we want.
It's your pod. You can do whatever you want.
And our AEW, we both like this AEW, this new promotion. Is it new now?
I mean, look, it was pre-pandemic.
So they've got this big card coming up on Sunday, and they're at Wembley Stadium in England. And I'm interested. I do think it seemed like a little underwhelming compared to when I said, they're going to Wembley. Yeah. I was thinking like WrestleMania type card, and it's okay.
Yeah,
what do you think?
So me and my co-hosts on my podcast, Jobbing Out, for anybody who wants to listen to wrestling, if you're into that, check that out. It comes out weekly. We've made the joke and we used to make this joke. Remember the early when WWE would go to Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
And we weren't sure what those shows were because they were in big stadiums or whatever. We made the joke, well, this is somewhere in between a house show and WrestleMania.
Okay.
And we're not sure what it is. That's kind of how I feel about this one.
Interesting.
Now, the MJF Adam Cole match, huge. Like that is
it's a great match.
a blockbuster match that should be on the top of a card at Wembley. FTR Young Bucks, huge. Now, granted, there's been some, the arrest and everything has put a little bit of a damper on that one, and that's huge. Everything else is like, there's a lot of coolness, but not a lot of you wouldn't expect this on the biggest show of all time, which is how they're kind of putting it on. It's, Jericho Ospreay, cool. Not really any story behind it.
No.
Not really something I'm desperate to see, but it's cool.
I mean, we just got that match 7 or 8 days ago, right?
Yeah, it's
they just announced it.
Right. So completely out of nowhere. You have Punk Joe, which again is cool, and for someone like me who was a Ring of Honor fan and who loved that feud, cool. But you also just had that match in the O, and there's no real feud behind it besides the fact that, remember when these guys fought 20 years ago? That's the whole build behind that match. You have the Stadium Stampede match, which is just a thrown-together match. I also don't know how you do a Stadium Stampede in a stadium that has fans. There's Stadium Stampede has a definition, and it's the pre-taped stuff where you go all over stuff. You can't do that here, so don't know what that is. And it just seems like it's a mix of that and... again, all of these matches are cool. I'm going to look forward to seeing it, but none of them have builds and storylines, and it's all just kind of messy.
Yeah, it's kind of like for me, and you're more of a diehard than I am. I'm probably more casual, but I'll buy it but it's more to see the setup.
It's the spectacle.
Yeah.
It's you want to see. I mean, especially with England, 80,000 English fans.
Yeah, they're nuts.
Chanting and cheering and doing. You know, there was a rumor that your guy Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, it's my guy. Double J.
Which I'm glad he's not on the card. But there was one.
What do you mean you're glad he's not on the card?
I'm glad he's not on the card.
Top 5 pro wrestler of all time. Double J.
In his mind, top 5 wrestler with consecutive consonants in his name. I'll give you that one.
That's a running joke with me and Aaron, by the way.
Oh yeah.
What is like 50% of our text messages are me texting Aaron Jeff Jarrett highlights.
I looked at what for whatever reason we haven't texted in a while, or maybe I've been using my work phone or something. But I pulled up like our last text when I was texting you earlier, and the last one was from when AEW was out here in Vegas, the Jeff Jarrett entrance. That was absolutely. But
phenomenal.
There was a rumor that he was going to face Grado. Are you familiar with Grado at all?
Not really.
He's this Scottish wrestler.
I'm aware of who he is, but yeah.
But he comes out to Like a Prayer by Madonna. Could you imagine 80,000 wrestling fans singing Like a Prayer as a wrestler comes out? That would be, without hyperbole, the greatest moment in the history of wrestling.
Yeah. This Jeff, on our guy, Jeff Jarrett. God, how old is he?
He's 55, probably.
He looks really good.
I'll say this.
Phenomenal.
Jeff Jarrett should not be in AEW. For what he's done in AEW, he surprised me.
Yeah.
They've been using him in a proper way just to get heat. They've resisted the urge to put any tag titles on him, which I was very afraid of at some point. So I don't completely hate that how he's been used. I just kind of hate that he's there.
Yeah,
he shouldn't be there.
So what have you thought about the Punk return in general?
It's
been pretty clunky, right?
So bad. I mean, you're talking specifically about these last couple months.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Since he came back in this new show,
and that it's his show, it's his title, it's his everything. It's a joke. It's a complete. And this is from a guy who really wanted CM Punk back, but at this point, he's pure ego.
I'm a Punk guy, and I'm not really even enjoying it much.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's bad because he's controlling all of it, and it seems like everything's about his ego.
God, just make him a heel.
Do something with don't give him his own show for one.
Yeah.
That's one. Don't give him his own show.
Although that show's been better than I anticipated it would be.
It's fine in the sense that, there are good matches on it.
Yeah.
Are there any good stories that are compelling on it? Not really. No.
The Starks was okay.
Well, but that's the thing is why is Starks being fed to CM Punk?
Yeah.
Ricky Starks. If you had told me a year ago that Ricky Starks would be in the position he's in now, I would have been baffled. They were positioning him to be such a huge player.
Mm-hmm.
And they just dropped the ball. And then it's not just the Punk thing. It's, they dropped the ball with Wardlow. Every now and then they try to push a young guy, and then something happens. They're starting to push Swerve. They're going to feed him to Sting on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, compared to, let's say, a year ago, was All In 2 years ago when Bryan Danielson came, and I think it was
2 years
and Adam
ago.
Cole.
Yeah, or that was All Out. That's the other weird thing about it. Why are we doing All In and All Out a week apart?
Oh,
completely.
I forgot that
and
there's
utterly
two different
insane.
ones. Yeah.
When that first happened, that.
Well, I guess where I'm going is, are you more bullish on AEW, or do you think that where do you see this thing ending up?
Man. It's really tricky because they've hit a rough patch at the same time when WWE has hit a hot spot.
Yeah.
And it has exacerbated the situation and made AEW look a lot worse than I think they actually might be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they're in trouble. They're fine as a business perspective. They're getting the TV money. As a company, though, they got to figure out who they are. And that's been their problem since day one, is that they just have no idea. Tony Khan doesn't know how to book. You have CM Punk booking one show. You have this whole mess of two different shows, but not really two different shows. It's a mess right now, is what it is. Now, granted, the MJF Adam Cole stuff might be the single best stuff in wrestling right now. They have high points. MJF might be the best overall performer right now. You could make that case.
I would make that argument.
Yeah, again, there's a number of people you could make that argument for, but he's one of them. You can absolutely make that argument about. So there's high points. They just don't know how to do everything else other than, let's just put them in and have a good match. And they got to figure out how to make these matches matter and not make it with Sting.
Yeah, no, I know. And the one thing, too, is just I know that I understand there's a business side of this. They're trying to get people in shows. They're trying to sell tickets. Like, for me, as a wrestling fan, I don't need 3 nights of AEW.
No, definitely. Well,
It's
first
just-
of all, there aren't. Rampage isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Rampage is.
Oh, they canceled it?
No. It is a thing.
But it's just like it's like the old WCW Saturday night that like it was
it's
on but didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I was comparing it to Sunday Night Heat, and I don't even know if it's Sunday Night Heat anymore. But it's basically that.
Well, like that's my thing. Like it's too much. Like I really liked AEW when it was like 2 hours of Dynamite, and that's all I had to pay attention to every week.
100%. Rampage, like, I understood why they did it, but it very quickly became and I was using the Heat comparison for Rampage when it was. Remember the early days of Heat where it's like, it didn't totally matter, but it still mattered.
And then it would like lead off pay-per-views and like it.
That's how I compared Rampage, and it was like, okay, especially with that time slot, probably shouldn't exist, but they're doing something there, and now it's just, as you said, Saturday night, whatever. Superstars. He had WWE Superstars or whatever it is.
Old school, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a blast. Really glad to be here. Hassel will be out here later, and we'll be doing Two Guys Named Chris from here tomorrow. And thanks for everything. This is really cool. I didn't know what we were coming into, and I'm really happy to be a part of this. And hopefully, I can win myself a championship in Survivor this year.
Yeah, $8 million sound okay to you?
Yeah.
Here's the question:
Let's go.
Would you still do the CW pod if
Absolutely.
you won $8 million? Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure. We didn't want to get your head too big.
I do it because I love it. Yeah. No, I'm in, and this is neat, and I'm looking forward to week 0 too. I'm a college football guy at heart.
Do you have any plays for week 0 yet?
Not yet. I'll probably play a lot of underdogs though. Would be my guess.
I'm really interested in the unders just because you know the no
funny.
clock stoppage after first down.
Palm and I just talked about that.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I wanted to talk to Palm about was these early unders.
Like the odds makers are baking that into it, but no one knows how much to bake into it. So
well, and I just think too. My big thing is these underdogs that really want to shorten games.
Yeah.
Like, you can manipulate that a little bit now.
The Navy game's so fascinating to me because
I'm playing Navy. I'll play, but I want it to get over 21.
Here's the one thing. If it gets over 21, 100%.
That's what I'm sitting and waiting for.
I'm
hoping the public pounds Notre Dame.
Yeah, I've had I don't even know if it's a factual theory, but it's just felt correct. Fade Navy in week 1 because teams have longer to prep for the triple option.
No, that's legit. Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of a bowl game.
Yeah, like mid-season, take Navy every time.
Mm-hmm.
First week, you kind of fade Navy just because teams are prepping all August for the triple option.
Yeah, Notre Dame's weird. It's like they've got really good quarterback play now.
Yep.
Freeman and Venables are like the guys to me. It's like, can either one of those guys afford to be average?
No.
Again.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially like Navy's deals or Notre Dame's deals just fascinating to me too. It's like with the television contract coming up. Like, they need to be good.
They do need to be good, and just the way everything happened, like,
yeah,
he's not beloved there right now. So if it's but they're supposed to be good, or at least pretty good. So I guess the question is, how good?
They
do
were
have
really
to be?
good. Remember against Ohio State in that week 1, and then they lose like Marshall in week 2. So I don't know.
Yeah, the question is a 9 or 10 win season okay, or because I believe their win total's 9. So
yeah, I've been digging into these win totals. It's been a rough year to be in the off season in the state of Iowa, so I'm glad that all that's getting.
Nothing's happened there, right?
Jeez, it's been something. So I was telling Aiden last night when we were walking around that it's been good to. This is a good time for me to get out here and just really just shut everything else down, focus on football.
Yep.
And we're gonna have a great year. So
thanks
for everything.
Football. Absolutely, looking forward to partnering with you over at Park Canada.
Yes, be there in 3 hours, 4 hours from now.
Perfect.
Something like that. Aaron Oster from Circa, we appreciate him stopping by. He is an AEW wrestling guru. Our other buddy Ted coming out here is a huge AEW guy too. So you guys will have to get together and chat. But that's coming up from Wembley on Sunday. It'll be like Sunday morning at like 9 here in Las Vegas. That concludes today's CW pod. A little bit longer one than normal. We just went an hour and a half, but really good stuff. Chad Leistikow was on. A few Iowa and Big Ten fans missed that from earlier. Mike Palm was phenomenal. As always, you can hear him with Ken Miller every week here on Iowa Everywhere with the Hook. And if you haven't checked out our new shows, I would encourage you to do so. Firmly Entrenched, Nick Osen and Jake Brind are hosting that one. Scott Docterman and Chad Leistikow with legends and listeners. Both weekly now here on Iowa Everywhere. Aiden, Wyatt, intern Aiden, is about ready to experience Las Vegas. Last night didn't count. We got caught in a monsoon in Las Vegas. Walking around, dry heat. You got these women. Yeah, all these women, that's what they do. They want you to give them like $20.
You want a picture?
Yeah, no, I don't want a picture with you. Leave me alone. But like the sixth one comes up to us last night. I said, Aiden, I'm about to hold your hand. So they leave us alone. And then it just downpours on us. We were really lucky, too, because we were right next to a casino that we could hop in.
Yeah.
And then we went to one of those undercarriage things where we didn't have to get – but we're driving back to Circa, and it's just flooding everywhere.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know how our Uber driver saw the road.
It was awful.
I couldn't see anything out the windshield.
Yeah. It was freaking crazy. I would make a small wager that there will not be another monsoon tonight. Chances are not happening. Hassel's going to be getting in here anytime. Appreciate all of you guys from watching. Man, this is a thrill for us to be out here and to be a part of all this that they've got going on at Circa. Again, there's over like 30 media outlets here that are doing previews for the ultimate, calling it the ultimate contest weekend. Maybe you're coming out here to Vegas. You can come find us in the Galaxy Ballroom, third floor of Circa. It's open to the public. Anybody can come. And we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be live here. Two Guys Named Chris will be 1 o'clock Iowa time. We're going to have our regular show. And we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Subscribe and follow us at all of our social media platforms. For Aiden Wyatt, my name is Chris Williams. We'll be back tomorrow with Two Guys Named Chris at 1 o'clock.